Sunset Boulevard is a 1950 movie that was directed and co-written by Billy Wilder. The film is named after a major street that runs through Hollywood, the center of the American movie industry. The production stars William Holden as Joe Gillis, a struggling screenwriter, and Gloria Swanson as Norma Desmond, a former silent film star who draws him into her demented fantasy world, where she dreams of making a triumphant comeback to the screen. The street known as Sunset Boulevard has been associated with Hollywood film production since 1911, when the town's first film studio opened there. The film workers lived modestly in this growing neighborhood, but during the 1920s, profits and salaries rose to unprecedented levels, leading to luxurious homes being built in this area. As a young man living in Berlin in the 1920s, director Billy Wilder was interested in the American culture, and much of this was fueled by his interest in American films. In the late 1940s, many of the grand Hollywood houses remained, and Wilder, who was then a Los Angeles resident, found them to be part of his everyday world. Many of the former stars from that silent era still lived in them, although most were no longer involved in the film business. Wilder got to wondering how they spent their time now, seeing that the parade had passed them by, and he began imagining a story of a star who had lost her celebrity and her box office appeal. The character of Norma Desmond mirrors aspects of the twilight years of several real-life faded silent film stars, such as the reclusive existences of Greta Garbo, Mary Pickford, and the mental disorders of Mae Murray and Clara Bow. The most common analysis of this character's name is the combination of the names of silent film actress Mabel Normand and the director William Desmond Taylor, a close friend of Normand's, who was murdered in 1922 in a never-solved case that was sensationalized by the press. Unlike the character that she played, Gloria Swanson had accepted the fact that the movies didn't want her anymore, and she had moved to New York, where she worked for radio and later on television. Although she had long before ruled out the possibility of a movie comeback, she was nevertheless highly intrigued when she got the offer to play this lead role. When her character says in the movie to the guard at the Paramount Studio gate, "Without me, there wouldn't be a Paramount Studios," these words really could apply to Gloria Swanson herself, as she was the studio's top star for 6 years running. When she finished Norma's final scene, which is the mad staircase descent, she burst into tears, and the crew then applauded. Even though it wasn't the last scene that was filmed, Billy Wilder threw a party for her as soon as the shot was finished. Now, the Desmond Mansion was located not on Sunset Boulevard, but on South Irving Boulevard on the corner of Crenshaw and Irving. It was built in 1924 by William Jenkins at a cost of $250,000. Its second owner was John Paul Getty, who purchased it for his second wife. Miss Getty divorced her millionaire husband, and she received custody of the house. It was she who rented the house to Paramount for the filming. The only addition was the swimming pool, which wasn't equipped with a means of circulating the water, so it was useless after filming. The pool was used in its empty condition in Rebel Without a Cause in 1955. In 1957, the mansion was tore down, and a large office building for Getty Oil was built on the site where it stands today. According to Gloria Swanson's daughter, her mother stayed in character throughout the entire shoot of the film, even speaking like Norma Desmond when she arrived at home in the evening after filming. On the last day of shooting, Swanson drove back to the house that she, her mother, and daughter shared during the production, and she announced that now there's only 3 of us living here, meaning that Norma Desmond has taken her leave. The costume designer, Edith Head, found working on the film to be one of her greatest challenges ever. She worked very closely with Gloria Swanson on Norma Desmond's wardrobe, as she figured that Swanson would have a better idea of what women of that time would have worn and what they would be wearing now. The drugstore where Joe Gillis meets up with his old movie industry friends is Schwab's Pharmacy. Then a real pharmacy soda fountain at the intersection of Sunset Boulevard and Crescent Heights Boulevard in West Hollywood. It was widely known as a top Hollywood hangout for many actors, directors, writers, and producers. And contrary to the legend, Lana Turner was not discovered by a talent agent at this drugstore, but rather another drugstore that was across from Hollywood High School, about 3 miles to the east. Schwab's was torn down in 1988 to make way for a movie theater and a shopping center. When Joe Gillis, the character played by William Holden, says they'll love it in Pomona, most people assume correctly that Pomona is intended to represent just the American average town. It also alludes to the fact that Pomona is one of 3 towns in California's Inland Empire region that were frequently used during Hollywood's golden age for testing preview audiences' reactions to unreleased films. These towns were favored because they were on the way to Palm Springs, where after collecting the audience reaction cards, studio personnel would go to relax and determine what changes needed to be made to the previewed films. The directions that are given by the Paramount Guard for Norma and Joe to go meet Cecil B. DeMille on stage 18 is entirely accurate. This stage, one of the largest on the Paramount lot, was known for years as the DeMille stage. The character of Joe Gillis was very much in tune with William Holden's standing at the time. When he appeared in the innovative movie Golden Boy from 1939, he was hailed as exactly that, but he had seen his stock fall, largely through his problems with alcohol and a string of unmemorable films in the 1940s. On the basis of this film, and largely due to his continuing association with director Billy Wilder, he would reach the zenith of his career from 1950 through 1957. Paramount was more than happy to be the subject of this film and didn't ask for the studio to be disguised at all. In fact, such was the buzz about the filming during production that the viewing of the daily rushes became one of the hottest tickets on the lot. Daryl Zanuck, Olivia de Havilland, and Tyrone Power, along with Samuel Goldwyn, refused to allow their names to be used in the film. But Billy Wilder decided to use Zanuck and Power's names anyway. Oddly enough, the reclusive Greta Garbo granted permission to use her name, though when she saw the film itself, she was sorry that she had done so. She felt that the director used her name in a past tense text, and she was offended by this. Now, there was a little bit of practical joking that went on the set, especially with director Billy Wilder. At one point, during the scene where William Holden and Nancy Olson kiss for the first time, the director let them carry on for minutes during this kiss without ever yelling cut. He did this intentionally because Holden's wife was on the set that day, and he did it just to irritate her and to see what her reaction would be. He had already gotten the shot for the take, and he just let them sit there for minutes, it seemed like, kissing each other without yelling cut. Eventually, William Holden's wife yelled cut because she had just stood all she could take about this long embrace. The movie was praised by critics on its release, and it was nominated for 11 Academy Awards. and it won 3. It is often ranked among the greatest movies that was ever made. Take a look at Sunset Boulevard if you've never seen it. You'll be glad you took the time to watch it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.